but he's worried about alienating them. They're small, but they're loud.
Yeah, the Wall Street Journal's writing about all this. Its editorial board just this morning writing RFK Jr.'s Operation Warped Memory. That's the title of the piece. The editorial board writes this: Mr. Kennedy struggled to defend his inconsistencies. Vice President J.D. Vance tried to ride to Mr. Kennedy's defense, writing on social media, "When I see all these senators trying to lecture and gotcha Bobby Kennedy today, all I can think is, you all support off-label, untested, and irreversible hormonal therapies for children, mutilating our kids and enriching big pharma. You're full of blank, and everyone knows it." That's a tweet from the Vice President of the United States. The Wall Street Journal writes, "Classy as ever, Mr. Vice President. None of this is true of Dr. Cassidy, Dr. Barrasso, and other senators, and the vice president knows it. Mr. Vance is trying to rally Republicans to RFK's side by framing this dispute in a polarized partisan framework. Either or, us, them. That may serve his political purposes as he courts RFK's supporters with 2028 in mind, but it won't win over anyone paying attention to the health secretary's contradictions as he attacks life-saving vaccines. And we should point out, as he tried to say yesterday in one of those exchanges with a Republican Senator caddy, that no, I like mRNA vaccines. Well, under his leadership, the HHS just pulled back $500 million in funding to support the development of those very vaccines.
I mean, in some ways it was a frustrating hearing because you had a lot of slipperiness going on, right? You had the secretary saying that he supported mRNA while we know he's doing something else. He's saying that, yes, COVID vaccines will be available to everybody, but also saying at the same time, but it's not recommended for certain people who are healthy, which then means that they may not be available in pharmacies, insurers may not have it. So I think that you heard some of that frustration from the senators who felt that they were hearing one thing when another thing was being done. But I agree with J-Mart and Ali. The most important criticism was from Senator Barrasso, who is close to the vice president, who is close to the White House. He would not have been out there freelancing. And for him to use that platform, I mean, it's so rare for him to step out of line against the White House, for him to decide to use that platform. To do that, you wonder, what was he trying to do? Is he trying to get the White House to a position where the secretary's position is no longer tenable? Why was he doing that? If there really isn't going to be any result from this, why would he stick his neck out in that way, Joe?
Well, and you know, it's just, this is not a political game, and some people in the White House may think it is. Some people around Kennedy may think it is. It's not a political game. This is serious. Life or death matters are involved here, and just as Senator Cassidy said, he quoted Eric Erickson, who said his wife is a stage 4 lung cancer survivor, a patient, and she needs the COVID vaccine. She can't get it now from CVS because of Senator Kennedy. Now, we know, Eric, multiply that thousands and thousands of times. It's happening all over America, and children are getting sick from diseases that they haven't had in years, that have been eradicated because of one person at the Department of HHS. And the question is, if Republicans are against him, if Democrats are against him, how long does he stay there? And, you know, this is, John Meacham was just really surreal. You know, we get numbed by everything that has been thrown our way over the past decade. But yesterday was particularly surreal when you had somebody lying about just facts, lying about medicine, lying about medical research, lying about what we all knew, lying about what he knew when he got every one of his children vaccinated when they were young, but is now saying it's okay for my children, but not for your children. And we always ask you to find parallels, but you know, I guess the know-nothings were backward-looking. They were nativist. They wanted to go back in time. They were fueled by fear, by conspiracy theories, by lies. And my God, J.D. Vance, I'm so glad the Wall Street Journal editorial page called him out yesterday. Basically, J.D. Vance, one of the dumbest things that this administration always does, this MAGA base always does, is they take an issue like this and say, oh, you must be with, like, trans. You must be with mutilating children for surgeries when they're transitioning. He did that, yes. Total lies. Is he really saying that about John Barrasso? Is he really saying that about Bill Cassidy? Is he really saying that about the 75% of Republicans who oppose what RFK Jr. is saying? Does J.D. Vance really think that 75% of Republicans support like trans operations for minors? Because that's what he said yesterday. And I'm so glad there's only so much stupidity you can put up with. I'm so glad the Wall Street Journal editorial page called him out. But I know it's going to be hard. I mean, but outside of the know-nothings, what other political movement has produced such backward-looking stupidity?
Well, the vaccine, was it hesitancy, denial, not even hesitancy, I guess, in some ways comes out of the John Birch Society, comes out of the Cold War paranoia that was fermented in the 50s and really exploded in the 60s. And what I think in fact, I think Secretary Kennedy's against the fluoridation of water, which was a literal part of the John Birch Society as well. And, I think vaccines are like, and don't hold me to exactly this analogy, it's a little bit like traffic rules, right? You kind of don't have an option of, well, I'm going to stop or not stop at that light. Not because it's it's part of the social contract that you give up a little bit of your liberty in order to protect the safety of the many. And I think in a huge way, what we're dealing with in the country, broadly put, is a breakdown of lowercase d democratic covenant. And this is the most vivid example of that. People like me, and you and I talk about this a lot, talk about the constitutional order and the Declaration of Independence and responsible citizenship. And I love talking about that almost as much as I love the drop shot. But this is one where there's an actual intersection with daily reality. And I was going to ask you what's going on in Florida, which I was just, I don't want to say puzzled by, but it did seem a little bit out of the blue just to say, hey, we're going to pull out of what is decade upon decade upon decade of public health.
And again, it's just a race to the bottom. And these people that are saying it now vaccinated their own children. And I guarantee you we're the first in line to get the COVID vaccine shots. In fact, before Ron DeSantis put his finger in the wind to see which way the political winds were blowing, he was rushing to veterans across the state of Florida so they could get the COVID vaccine shots first. And then suddenly he figured out that a small subset of his political party were against vaccines, were against COVID vaccines. And now these politicians, these HHS secretaries who made sure their own families got the vaccines and got the boosters are now the first in line, Willie, to be saying, oh, don't get the, for, again, political purposes. They're taking care of their own families. They're making sure their own family's safe. And then they're spreading this lie to other families. And just for those people that don't know,